Boys, we've made it. It's week one. There are a few games going on right now. A few games already happened, but we're here to discuss Virginia Tech versus South Carolina, which happens this weekend on Sunday. Andrew, Alex, Mike McDaniel, and myself, Ricky the Blue. Mike, your biggest impression from the early window of today so far?
Yeah, so little, if you're not listening to this live at little after 10:30, Duke has put away Elon. Their rushing stats are going to look better because they broke a 63-yarder and then like a 40-yard run. But if they didn't do that, they wouldn't have been able to run the ball on Elon all night. Lucky for them, Darian Mensah has thrown for like 400 yards. So that's a positive. But I've been largely unimpressed with Duke's running game. Mensah is outstanding. That's a definite upgrade at quarterback. I know we talked about that in the preseason when we were wondering kind of what Duke's going to be and where Tech, kind of stands in the ACC. Definite upgrade at quarterback for Duke. NC State looked really, really good in the first half against East Carolina and then could not put them away in the second half. It was to the point where like East Carolina got stopped in the red zone on 4th and 1 going in to tie the game with like a minute to go. So NC State survived in a game that they just couldn't put away. Don't really know what to make of that yet with the Wolfpack. So
yeah, it's a little early. Andrew, you got anything?
Yeah, my early Friday night impressions were, prior to this podcast, I was hanging out in the Jimmy Cleveland Man Cave, which for those of you that don't know Jimmy Cleveland, it is a paradise of sports watching / gambling. A lot of TVs set up there. The two main ones had Miami, Ohio, and Wisconsin on one screen, and then Nebraska, Cincinnati on the other. Both matching up teams wearing red and white of pretty much the exact same shade. Very confusing. And not a lot of action in either of those games through the first half here. It's 3-0 Wisconsin at half, and Nebraska 13-3 over Cincinnati, but not exactly offensive explosions going on here in the Midwest on this Thursday evening.
Yeah, I'll be quick with mine. Ashton Jeanty is incredible. That's my takeaway because Jesus Christ, Boise State, what the hell happened? Let's go ahead and get into this, though. Virginia Tech starts their season on Sunday. We're obviously going to pick that game towards the end of the show. Before we dig deeper into the Gamecocks, Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg, that's the place to be for all your pharmaceutical needs, home field apparel. The home opener is next week, so if you haven't gotten a shirt yet, go over to Home Field, get you a nice shirt, use Beamer Ball for your promo code, get 15% off the first order. Guys, South Carolina ranked in the top 15. Lenore Sellers is getting a lot of hype. Mike, Andrew and I were discussing Sellers before you got here and before we started recording. I don't know how much of the hype comes from that Clemson game where he kind of just ran all over Clemson and racked up a ton of yards. But just going back and trying to look at some of the data on Sellers, like Pro Football Focus is not all that high on him in terms of his passing. Didn't think he was an elite quarterback last year. He's got a lot of missing guys around him. I'm not really sure who he's throwing the ball to other than Nick Harbor. Running back is a big question mark. They've got a geriatric senior citizen playing at running back this year in Rashul Faison. So
who was just cleared too.
What's that?
Faison was just cleared too, in the last few days. So
yeah, which shocker, of course he was.
Yeah.
But going back to this offense, I don't really know what to expect from South Carolina because Sellers, yes, has that ability to create with his legs and is able to break out of the pocket, but there's not that much around him. They've got a lot missing on offense and really on defense as well, but just starting on offense, the South Carolina offense seems like a big question mark.
Yeah, there are questions about who he's going to throw to outside of Harbor's the headliner at receiver. Sellers got a lot better as the year went on last year. First 5-ish games of the year were a little bit underwhelming. His last 7 starts, he completed like 70% of his passes, 9.25 yards per attempt, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Got really good as the year went on. But there's a lot of new, right, with South Carolina's offense. I think it's fair to wonder how he's going to mesh with the receiving core. I think the hype around Sellers, in my opinion, is legitimate. I think he's very good. I don't think it's really dissimilar to how people were feeling about Kyron Drones heading into last year.
Which turned out great, by the way.
Which, yeah, I mean, it's similar in a way. Drones 2 seasons ago, it was kind of choppy when he took over the starting job, and then you could see the glimpses, right, as the year went on. He was getting more and more comfortable. And then the hype going into last year, I think justifiably so, around Drones was, pretty high, a lot of hype. I like Drones a lot. I think Sellers has a higher ceiling than Drones. I think he's a better player. But I expect Drones to play well on Sunday. I really do. It's going to be a good quarterback battle, I think. And they're 2 quarterbacks in a similar stage in terms of like really having questions around them in terms of what their skill position guys are going to be and who's going to emerge on the outside. The one key difference for South Carolina, of course, is they have Nick Harbor and they have that one certainty that I don't think Virginia Tech has, right? I mean, coming into the year, Virginia Tech's certainty on the outside is Aiden Green, and Nick Harbor and Aiden Green are 2 different players. So
yeah,
I think it's interesting in that regard because 2 quarterbacks with brand new skill guys, and I think they've been on kind of a similar trajectory in terms of coming off of a year where they were productive and having the hype coming into the following season. I mean, this is exactly where Drones was a year ago, basically to this day. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, look, I mean, when you see things like Heisman hype around Lenora Sellers, and I saw CBS Sports today, preseason top 50 rankings for quarterbacks in all of FBS college football. Lenora Sellers coming in at number 6. Kyron Drones, Mike, guess what he was ranked?
Probably a lot lower.
He was not ranked in the top 50. They only ranked what they deemed to be the top 50 quarterbacks. So
that's crazy.
Chip on the shoulder material there for Kyron, I suppose. But
it's a weak quarterback year too. At least there's Arch at the top, but it seems like there's a perceived weakness. And of course, we always go into the year thinking that on paper, and then a bunch of guys young guys step up and play well.
When people are looking at Garrett Nussmeier as like the cream of the crop for quarterbacks, that's usually not a good sign.
Yeah, not a lot of returning. I would say not a lot of proven returning production at quarterback this year, which is why I think it's contributing to the hype of Sellers as well.
Well, again, yeah, it's college football. You never know. Some people will get better. I remember thinking, LSU really thinks their solution here to replace Joe Burrow is Jaden Daniels from Arizona State, and he ended up being pretty good. So, guys get better as they get older. But that being said, and that's we'll pivot with that. Lenora Sellers may have improved significantly over the offseason. There's a strong possibility of that. That's what you expect out of a young quarterback coming out of his first year in the starting job. But there are flaws, right? He took a bunch of sacks last year. He held the ball for too long in a lot of situations. He fumbled a lot. Still a very dynamic player, obviously. Could do a lot on his feet as well. But this isn't necessarily like the most high-powered guaranteed thing that we could ever see with South Carolina. I think that, and I was telling Ricky this before the show, when I see the spread being surprisingly tight between a Virginia Tech team with a ton of question marks and number 13 South Carolina, I think that's more of Vegas trying to tell you that they don't really think that South Carolina is the number 13 team in the country, than they have a lot more faith in Virginia Tech than we thought they would, right? Maybe it's a little bit of a combination of the two, but I think it's much more casting doubt on the Gamecocks there.
Yeah, and Joey brought this up on our ACC pod last night, and I think it's a good point. Virginia Tech doesn't get blown out a lot under Pry. I mean, they don't. Look at all the one-score losses.
Yeah, last year was the first year since like 2010 that Virginia Tech didn't lose a game by more than 10 points in the season.
They don't, and you know, ultimately it's have you won the games or not, right? So I mean, I don't want to hang the banner because of a bunch of one-score losses. But point being, when you look at a spread of 8 points, right, against, like you mentioned, Andrew, like a team like South Carolina that's getting a lot of preseason hype and they're ranked in the top 15, and you see Virginia Tech sitting around a 7-point underdog, right? It's between 7.5 and 8. It's been bouncing around all week. You're a one-score underdog to the 13th ranked team in the country, and Virginia Tech fans coming into this year are thinking the Pry's going to get fired. So like something's not adding, right? Something's not adding up there. And that was the discussion Joey and I were having last night. And to Joey's point, it's like Tech's not getting blown out a lot under Pry, right? I mean, a couple seasons ago against undefeated Florida State and Louisville, I mean, okay, right? You're still building the program up. Last year, it was not being able to convert a lot of those one-score losses into wins. And now it's totally new personnel in a lot of cases and 2 new coordinators and a new offensive line coach. So now it's like you can't even necessarily count on it being like a developmental thing where it's like, oh, it's walk before you run. Okay, we're getting blown out by the bad teams. Now we're we're getting blown out by good teams. And now we're competing with the good teams and losing close. And now, okay, we're going to convert some of those to wins. Maybe that ends up being the trajectory this year, right? And maybe that starts on Saturday or on Sunday, against South Carolina. Maybe that's what ends up happening. But like with all the new, it's also like, who knows? Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, could be somewhere in the middle. Of course, we all picked them to go 6-6 and got a lot of heat for that on social media for some reason. This has been a 6-win program for a decade. This is what it's been.
Yeah,
that
like, caught me by surprise, quite honestly.
I mean, to be fair, I think some of the heat was joking, and the heat that wasn't joking wasn't a ton of voices, we'll say. But to that point, Mike, like there's a lot of unknown. As while we do think we know that South Carolina has a lot of questions and a lot of potential weakness there, like, you know, they gave up a lot of sacks last year and didn't add a lot along the offensive line. All right, that's great. And it would be great if you had Antoine Powell-Ryland and Aeneas Peebles, but we don't anymore. So who's going to provide that pass rush? Are any of these guys that we brought in plus guys that can go head to head with even like a mediocre SEC offensive line and be a big difference maker and like cause chaos in Lenore Sellers Sunday afternoon? I don't know the answer to that. So, and you know, maybe Nick Harbor is truly all they got at wide receiver, which I doubt. But even if that's the case, do we even have defensive backs capable of guarding Nick Harbor? I mean, right. he is an incredible athlete, and he had the entire offseason, right? And granted, we got some good athletes too, but it's a game that, despite going in feeling like South Carolina might be a tad overhyped, or at least being able to talk myself into that, and I'm not trying to downplay Lenore Sellers as a quarterback, because I think he's very good and will inevitably be probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks that Virginia Tech faces all year if he doesn't end up being the best. But I don't think we're going up against the Heisman Trophy winner here and like the 2020 or 2019 LSU offense. But at the same time, if they have weaknesses, can you expose them? With Virginia Tech, just because of the new personnel and not the greatest track record in these tight ones, it's hard to say that they will.
Yeah, and while we're thinking about what Lenore Sellers may be able to do, we have to consider the fact that Virginia Tech might be missing their starting Mike linebacker in this game. Caleb Woodson obviously gets a DWI last weekend. His status is up in the air. Rather than debate
driving while an idiot.
Yeah, that's for sure. Rather than debate the merits of whether or not Virginia Tech should punish him now or wait, what does Virginia Tech's defense do without him on the field? What does that look like, and how big of an impact do you think that that's going to have in this game if he is suspended for Sunday?
I don't even think it's a question worth spending that much time on, my friend, because I think he's playing. You know, for better or worse, on your moral take on it, I think that until he goes to court and they say that he definitely did it, if given the option to wait on that and have it land around the Old Dominion game,
well, like I said, I mean, I'm not gonna like. I put my opinion out there already. It's been out there. Some people agree, some people disagree. That's fine. But just from a hypothetical standpoint, if he's not on the field, Virginia Tech's linebacker group looks very different.
It's been my question in the offseason. That was my question. Like, the linebacker depth is a question for me.
Yeah. Not only might Caleb Woodson be the best player on the field defensively for Virginia Tech, he might be the most important player on the field against Lenora Sellers, and he's the player where you have the biggest drop off between him and his backup. He'll be playing for that very reason. And you know, obviously depth is important, and this is evidence of it because anything can happen. But no, Caleb Woodson for this defense overall, in my view, going into the year is, you know, got to be your A1 guy. Like,
yeah, I think he's the most important player on the defense for sure, which is why seeing him get a DWI was pretty disheartening. It's hard to imagine a more important player on the defense. The two linebackers have to be really. I mean, we don't need to go into it again, but like the two linebackers are just so crucially important to everything Virginia Tech's doing this year, in my opinion, because I'm not sure I'm too comfortable with what's behind them, number one. And then number two, it's a lot of new players in the secondary. And I think Virginia Tech will run 5 defensive backs out there a lot. I think it's just even more imperative that your 2 starting linebackers are solid. And I'm a little leery about what Virginia Tech's got up front defensively on the line. You know, I feel good about Kelvin Gilliam, obviously. And, you know, there's some guys there, and Keyshawn Burgos is still there. And there's been a lot of hype around Ben Bell. And there are still some players on the defensive line. I think they're probably deeper there. Like, I think there's a lot of guys that are going to play up front. But until we know how impactful those guys are going to be, I think it's just even more important that Woodson keeps himself on the field and Keller plays well. We get the good version of Keller more consistently. So yeah, the questions going into South Carolina are the questions we've had all off season. You know, can Virginia Tech stop the run, you know, between Faison and Sellers? I think that's going to be a big piece of it. I think what Virginia Tech ideally would like to do is load the box and make Sellers throw. I think that's ideally what they'd like to do, because he was a little Jekyll and Hyde last year throwing. Obviously very good second half of the year, but I think that's what Virginia Tech would prefer to do in this game with the unproven pass catchers outside of Nick Harbor. And like you mentioned, Andrew, just because we don't know their names yet doesn't mean that they're not going to be any good. And the same goes for Virginia Tech's pass catchers. You know, we know Aiden Green, and we have a list of guys who have been on the roster for a while or are new that could be good, might not be. But South Carolina's recruited very well, and at least on paper from a talent standpoint, I saw our buddy Matei put out the 247 like composite like roster rankings in terms of like where South Carolina is versus Virginia Tech. And I think Virginia Tech had like around an 87 rating on 247, and South Carolina is like 89.5 or something like that. I mean, they're recruiting SEC talent. They got, you know, better players, at least on paper. None of that matters where you don't play games on paper. So, you know, get pressure on the quarterback, make Sellers throw. I think that's probably the path here. And then see if he can beat you with his arm, right? See if the hype's real and see if the unproven pass catchers for South Carolina can beat you. Don't let Nick Harbor beat you. Don't let Faison and Sellers beat you. That's the goal, I think, for Sunday defensively.
Yeah, and one point about the linebackers really quick, because that's been kind of the crux of Virginia Tech's issues on defense for the last few years, and especially during the Brent Pry era. And we can take it back further to the latter part of Justin Fuente's tenure. The Virginia Tech linebacker group has been just mostly awful, to be quite honest. Like they've caused issues in the run game by not fitting properly. They're getting beat in coverage consistently. They get beat by misdirection, and this has been a nagging issue. And I think that's one of the reasons, like we said, this offseason, why Chris Marv isn't coaching this defense anymore. So hopefully the linebacker play is going to be a little bit better, because that's, I mean, being in the middle of the defense, you're playing such a big role in both the pass and the run game. It's going to be imperative that they're on their A game and they're able to keep Sellers kind of contained a little bit, but also hold up in coverage.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, trying to imagine a path to victory. Like, what does Virginia Tech have going for them? Effectively, the element of surprise, right? New coordinators on both ends. A roster that is new, but it's new to everyone, right? So you don't know what these guys have up their sleeves for how you're going to use these players, and obviously even the general scheme that you're running. You go in, you throw them off early, take a lead, maybe get a turnover, and then again, like Mike was saying, force Sellers to throw the ball to try to catch up with you. Because what does that sound like, right? Last year, Labor Day weekend in Nashville, Tennessee, Vanderbilt comes in with a bunch of new players and a new offensive coordinator. They land the wrinkles early. There was that turnover tip ball from Drones that they took back, and suddenly they were up big. And they forced Kyron Drones to try to come back using his arm, and he almost did. But, that was the recipe for the upset there. Now, granted, Vanderbilt ended up being a lot better than we thought they were in that game, which hopefully Virginia Tech will take the same path. But, you got to use that to your advantage, that element of surprise to the degree that you can. And I'm curious to see, like, is this going to be something where they throw the entire book out there week one, for the chance to win this game on national television, or are they going to keep anything close to their chest, or is that something they're going to decide midway through the game? It's week one, baby. Anything can happen.
I think you're more likely to throw the kitchen sink at South Carolina, because you're only going to catch Vanderbilt by surprise so much. You played him a year ago, and I get different personnel, different team, like different coordinator, all that stuff. But like Virginia Tech defensively going into the Vanderbilt game next week, like they know who the players are. Like they have an idea.
But not just that, Mike. I think it's also all of the narrative surrounding this game, right? Like you can't just play the son of Frank Beamer and the game not mean something.
Yeah.
And Shane's success at South Carolina, tempered or whatnot, however you want to characterize it, is more than Virginia Tech has had in recent years. And a lot of Virginia Tech fans wanted Shane to be able to get the job a while ago. A lot of fans resent the fact that Shane isn't coaching in Blacksburg. So he's always going to be a bit of a measuring stick for whoever is the head coach in Blacksburg. So if you're Brent Pry, you have to look at this game, and yes, this game means absolutely nothing compared to, or in terms of trying to compete for an ACC championship. But the narrative, if you win this game, can really elevate your program and potentially put some of your doubters to bed. So I would imagine that Brent Pry, Sam Seifkis, Philip Montgomery are going to let it all hang out on Sunday. Damned be the future.
Also, it's just caliber opponent thing too. Like South Carolina's just on paper a good team. So
South Carolina may be, and I'm not sure that they are, but they may be the best team that they face all year.
Yeah, and they're a good candidate.
We'll find out, but they're going to be probably
candidate.
one of the top 2 or 3 teams.
Oh,
Yeah.
according to the preseason rankings, they are. Or what's Miami ranked right now?
Miami's inside the top 10 for reasons I don't understand, really.
Okay, well, according to the polls, Miami will be the best team that they face. But who knows? But yeah, to your point, Ricky, about how much Brett Pry wants this game. It truly is a what have you done for me lately world. And a year ago today, when we were doing this podcast, previewing the Vanderbilt Week 1 matchup for the much hyped up 2024 season, Brett Pry was walking on water. 6 wins and 6 losses later, 7 losses, count the bowl game. He's now in hot seat conversations. So in a year, you can go from, potentially if they have a good season, is he going to a Big Ten or SEC program to will he get fired after this year, right? Mm-hmm. That's how quickly the scales tip. Well, the scales will be nice to him if he can win this Week 1 matchup against South Carolina. That dispels a whole lot of narratives that are a monkey on that man's back. Are the odds in his favor? No, but I think, and on the other side of things, right? If you're Shane Beamer wants this one too, no doubt about it. The alma mater, dad's school. Yeah. I think he wants to beat them, maybe from if he's holding grudges of some sort, or who knows. But on the other side of things, like Shane Beamer doesn't want to take an L to Virginia Tech, and the only chance he'll have against them, realistically, for the foreseeable future. I mean, there's some emotions going on both sides here. It's a game I'm glad I'm attending. We'll go with that.
Yeah, the all the hot seat talk will be put to bed if Virginia Tech wins this game. You won't be hearing much about hot seats for a little bit if Virginia Tech wins this game. With the way the schedule sets up, you win this game, and we've seen Virginia Tech do this before, right? They get a big win, then they go on the road, or they play at home even the next week. Just lay an egg, and then it's like, okay, what are we? That would be very Virginia Tech like. But yeah, you're not going to hear much about a hot seat for Pry if he goes and beats South Carolina. South Carolina was left out of the playoff last year, justifiably so, because they didn't play well in the month of September, and they had 3 losses, and they weren't a conference champion. They weren't a conference championship participant. They should not have been in the playoff. They were playing their best football at the end of the year. Good for them, but they lost too many games. Weren't in the playoff, but they were good. They were if they were in the field, right? If they were in the college football playoff, you wouldn't have wanted to see them right at the end of last year. And for Pride to pick up a win against that school 8 months later, would be pretty big. It would be the biggest win for Virginia Tech in a very long time.
It'd be the biggest win since there was some hot seat talk in 2021 for a man named Justin Fuente, and he beat a top 15 North Carolina team in the first home game at Lane Stadium in 2 years because of COVID, or the first true home game with fans. And that tilted the scales for about a week and a half. And then, the rest is history, as they say. But all right. So
it didn't help that UNC just stepped on it all season.
Yeah, there were 6. Yeah, I think they went 7-5 or 6-6.
Unfortunately, Virginia Tech's had 2 great season opening wins in the last 8 years, and both of those games ended up being against teams that flamed out in a big way, that being Florida State and that 2021 Carolina team. Both still very fun games, though. Now, with that being said, we're talking about what a win would do. But for you as a prognosticator of this, and obviously, we're all coming in with this 6-6 opinion and surprise when it comes to ACC picks. But if you listen to our last episode, I don't think anyone here is picking the Hokies. So with that in mind here, what would be, outside of a win, what would you need to see to walk away from Sunday saying, I feel a lot more confident in this team than I did going in? What would that
have a chance to win it in the 4th? Honestly, I mean, if they if they have a drive with, I don't know, 4 minutes left, or maybe at the end of the game where they have a chance to either tie or take the lead, that'll tell me that either it won't really answer the question of whether or not how good South Carolina is, but it'll at least tell me that Virginia Tech is on par with these guys. And um, if South Carolina is as good as a lot of folks think that they are, Virginia Tech can at least hang with them. That inspires a little bit of confidence that Virginia Tech will be able to hold its own against a pretty mediocre ACC outside of maybe the top two teams. We talked about it on the season preview. The schedule is not scary in any way, shape, or form. Virginia Tech, if they were a reasonable team, should have no problem going 6-6 or 7-7, or excuse me, 7-5.
Let's play 14, baby.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's a really quick side note. I actually tweeted, I think it was at Andy Bitter from Tech Sideline, that had to be coming in the next 10 years. And David Teal, obviously veteran of Virginia sports writing, said no chance. And I was like, can you explain that? Because I don't see how it's not a possibility that they're not going to try and milk this product for more games. But in short, Virginia Tech, if they're able to hang with South Carolina, makes me feel like 7 to 8 wins is certainly a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be feeling good about the schedule until the month of November. And then by then it's the stretch on paper right now looks daunting with Miami and Louisville and Florida State on it. But those teams aren't without questions, right? Mm-hmm. So who knows what they're going to be in November? I'm feeling pretty good on paper with the teams that Virginia Tech's got to play. I saw somebody tweet something about, I'll be really frustrated if Tech's in this game in the fourth quarter and then they blow it, they make a mistake, or they lose the game. I would love to be in that position. Just get into that position, right? So that I can be pissed. That's what
I'll
I
be
want.
pissed off too, but it'll be a lot easier to stomach it come Sunday night or Monday.
Right. It's okay, well, we're going to sit here and record the recap, and we'll be pissed that Tech lost another one-score game and they were in it in the fourth quarter, and we'll have our critiques about whatever, the coaching staff or drones or, a key play here or there, whatever that could have tipped the scales. But if we have an opportunity in the fourth quarter against South Carolina and what's going to be, I know it's a neutral site, but a pseudo road game, there's going to be a lot of South Carolina fans there. Not that Tech doesn't travel well. Of course, Tech fans travel well. A lot of Tech fans are going to be in Atlanta, but this is probably going to be a pseudo road game. Yeah. I would anticipate say
65-35. I'd be
probably
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, probably so. Just have an opportunity in the fourth quarter, hang around a while, and give yourself a shot. And then, Pry made some hires with the staff to turn things around and flip some narratives. So can you get yourself into a mix? Can it be a one-score game late? And can you flip the narrative? And I think if you told Brent Pry right now, right, we're sitting here less than 72 hours from kickoff. If you told him that he was going to be down one score with 8 minutes left, he'd sign up for that. I think he'd absolutely sign up for that. So, just get yourself into position, and I'll feel pretty good about it if Tech takes South Carolina to the fourth quarter. And just looking out at the schedule for the rest of the year, I think reasonably speaking, my expectations for what this team is going to be would probably be a little bit different if Tech shows up here and plays competitive ball for 4 quarters against these guys. And if you ultimately lose, you ultimately lose, but give yourself a shot.
Yeah, from the perspective of the fans, right? The brave soldiers out there with a lot of free time, and I know a lot of you guys don't have a lot of free time, but even the people with free time, we all have limited resources. and to either get on a plane or get in your car and drive 6, 7, 8 hours. Me being one of these people, and a lot of my close friends in a similar boat, if we go down there and like the highlight of the trip is the Atlanta Aquarium or the bars in Buckhead beforehand, that'll be a huge bummer. If the game, again, it'd be a huge bummer if we get there and like there's going to be all the hype and then they just get the absolute doors blown off of them.
Yeah.
Like in my view, a cover will make me feel pretty good about the rest of the way.
You're an underdog for a reason. Cover the spread. I'm not for moral victories, but if we're talking about like, hey, stuff to look for in a loss, that's the kind of things, because it is the opener and there are a lot of unknowns. So it's like, let's try to glean what we can out of one game sample size with this new roster and new coaching staff. And really interested in watching this game for, obviously I'm excited to watch the opener of my alma mater, but like outside of that, just the scheme of Seifkis. What's the offense going to look like? What are the playmakers going to look like on the outside? Right. Or, the South Carolina defense, right? They have Dylan Stewart, who's an outstanding sophomore, was really, really good last year as a freshman. But South Carolina has lost key players in the secondary. They've lost other key guys up front. Kyle Kennard, who transferred in from A&M, he's gone. Nick Emanwari is gone. The starting safety was a second-round pick. They've lost some key guys on that defense too. So for as imposing as Dylan Stewart is as a pass rusher, and he's going to be a problem, obviously, from an offensive standpoint, want to make sure we block him and don't let one guy totally wreck the game. And I know Matt Moore made some comments today in a practice interview that I've seen circulating on social media, and some people are panicking about it. And I don't know really what to make of it. I think he was almost trying to say like he holds his offensive lineman to a high standard and it might take some time. Well, yeah, it might take some time. It's an entirely new offensive line. They need time to gel. Like, I understand where he was coming from there. And also he's holding him to a high standard. So for him to say, well, it's never going to be good enough for me or whatever, like, take that with a grain of salt. I think that's what I want my offensive line coach saying. Like, I want him to be holding the group up to a high standard. More importantly, I just want to make sure they block Dylan Stewart on Sunday. Just please don't let him beat you.
So, Johnny Garrett, welcome to big time college football, buddy. Yeah, that's what
paid for, bud.
And that's a lot of my, while I want to be optimistic, it's like we don't necessarily know what the weakness of Virginia Tech is necessarily yet. There might be multiple. Hopefully there's less than there could be. But if one of those weaknesses is along the offensive line, and you got Stewart, a guy who's like a certified future NFL player, immediate impact guy as a freshman, lined up against you, like, it could be a long day. So how does that offensive line come along? Can they be formidable? Because, Drones isn't necessarily the most poised pocket passer under pressure, as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, so much missing from this front group here for South Carolina that I don't really know what to expect from the defense either, outside of Stewart and what he could potentially do. Any last bits of info we want to get out here before we start picking games?
Again, as I said before, if that comes off as negative to you, we don't hold any vendettas here. Listen to last year's previews before the season, before week 1. We were very, very optimistic, which at the time seemed realistic. And because our hopes were let down, it's hard to get your hopes up again. But we shall see. I'm still excited, still going to the game. It'll make my season tickets a lot more valuable if it turns out this team is good.
You might actually go to ODU and Wofford.
I mean, there's no shot I'm going to Wofford, unfortunately. ODU is up in the air. Cal and Wake, big circles around them. Can't wait.
Yeah.
So disappointed with Caleb Woodson's DWI. You're like, man, I can't be seen in Blacksburg after that. I can't do it.
That's why I don't drive in Blacksburg.
We got to pen thousands of words on that.
I'm disappointed about the tweet that I shared with you guys that neither of you reacted to. that was joking about the ending of the Virginia Tech South Carolina game?
I haven't seen
Oh
it
yeah,
yet.
I've
not viewed
I had
that
seen
yet.
that one before. I already liked it.
This was I'll go ahead and read it off because it's so good. Brody Bowens on X, shout out to you for this one. It's 17-17. Gamecocks are on the goal line. Sellers drops back to pass. He throws. Oh my God! A car has crashed into the stadium. Caleb Woodson gets out of the car and intercepts the pass and brings it all the way back. Hokies win.
Perfect.
I do notice, and I'm enjoying how the burnerverse is really becoming a thing on Virginia Tech Twitter. A lot of good stuff coming out of some of these accounts. So keep it up, guys.
Yeah, we're here for the jokes. All right, it's pick'em time. We'll be tracking our picks on the website, HokieHangoverPod.com, that we revealed just a couple days ago in the full season preview. Make sure you are bookmarking that. But again, we'll be tracking these picks. We're still looking for a wager, so if you guys have any good ideas, go ahead and send them to us. See if we can put something on the line here for the boys.
Loser has to do a live stream from an Applebee's with a blow up doll. Wasn't that the one, Ricky? You were the one who told us that one.
Yeah.
Oh
God, that was that was a transformative evening.
I bet it was. That's hide your kids, hide your wife scenario. I did inform my friends that was definitely a fantasy football punishment that you had shared, and as you can imagine, that got its fair share of laughs for the ridiculousness that you had to witness.
Oh man! All right. Decent slate here. We've missed some of them already because we recorded the preview a little bit later than I was hoping, but we still have plenty of games to pick here. So let's go ahead and start with the next one up on the schedule. This is an odd game itself. Friday, tomorrow. Kennesaw State goes to the Steeman Deeks. Wake is an 18.5-point favorite as of now. Andrew and I were talking about this before we started recording. I'm not betting on Wake to beat anybody by 18.5. Give me Kennesaw State.
I'm going to agree.
Me too. Me three.
That was an odd spread. I'll say that. Izzy is the brave one. She's taking Wake. Next one, Georgia Tech, Colorado. One of the more interesting games on the FBS slate, I think, of week one. This one's in Boulder, but Georgia Tech is still a 4.5-point favorite. Mike?
Colorado's replacing everybody. Caden Salters, starting quarterback. We know him. He's from Liberty. Georgia Tech's just got more guys returning, and in an opener, I think you go with the certainty there. So give me Georgia Tech. Close game, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on Haynes King. Give me Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, this will probably be the healthiest that King is all season. I'll take the Yellow Jackets. However, I do think this will be an interesting test for them, considering the hype that's surrounding Georgia Tech heading into this year. Izzy, again, going against us. She's taking Colorado. Next game, Syracuse, Tennessee. Very interesting season opener. All the issues with Tennessee in the offseason with Nico Amaliava leaving. They get Aguilar from UCLA. They essentially do a trade there. Tennessee still almost a 2-touchdown favorite. It's at 13.5. Andrew?
Game also being played in Atlanta the day before Virginia Tech's game. So going to be an interesting mix of fans down there. But I will go with Tennessee. I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
Yeah. Both teams turned over a lot of their roster. I like Tennessee's team more. So Vols.
Yeah, we're all aboard the Vol bandwagon there. A lot of points, but Fran Brown might be taking a big step back this season. I have good questions about the Syracuse roster. Oddly enough, there's a spread here for Fordham, BC. I don't have it on our list of picks, but if you bet BC at plus or minus 36.5 against Fordham, call the hotline.
I'm going for Fordham here. If you guys remember when I was in Amelia Island in February for a week for work, my absolute boy who works for another company, Tim DeMorat, who was the FCS quarterback of the year like 3 years ago for Fordham. So I'm a big Fordham football guy. Plus 36.5.
My mom got her master's degree from Fordham, so I am also picking Fordham. Sentimental.
I'm not picking anybody.
Pick a side.
Well, I guess Castellanos isn't there anymore, so I guess I could pick BC, but 36 seems like a lot. Next real game that matters, Bama, Florida State. This one's in Tallahassee. This game seemed really good on paper, probably when it was signed.
Sure.
Now not so much. Alabama also almost a 2-touchdown favorite at 13.5. I am totally out on Florida State this year until proven otherwise. I'm taking Bama even against that spread.
I have already bet it. Bama.
Is this a lock, Mike?
I think I'm going to go bet that as a lock as well. At least my exposure to this podcast has had not been good for my faith in Mr. Castellanos. So, I don't think that's going to be taking down the Crimson Tide.
It's one of 3 locks on the card this weekend, right?
Are the other ones ACC locks?
Yeah, I got 2 more for you.
Okay, all right.
Let's keep going. Yeah, we can keep going.
We're all taking the Tide here.
Yep.
Next one, interesting game. Coastal Carolina at Virginia. Virginia is 11.5 favored.
Down a point, by the way. It was 12.5 when we previewed it on my ACC pod last night. So it's moving in Coastal's direction a little bit.
Okay. Give me Coastal, man.
I like Virginia. Great transfer class.
I do too. I think Virginia's roster is better. It doesn't mean it's going to result in a bunch of wins because I don't really trust the coaching staff, but I think their roster is better. I like Chandler Morris. I think that Coastal has a chance to be pretty bad, but we'll see.
I'm the only one going with Coastal.
Not saying it's a bad pick, Rick. I'm just
almost out of principle. I'm just picking against UVA until I see something.
It's fine.
Monster game Saturday night at Clemson. Who is the real Death Valley? We'll find out. LSU at Clemson. Clemson's a 4.5-point favorite. I thought a lot about this one. Feels weird, but I'm going to go with LSU. 4.5. I'll take the points.
I think the difference will be Clemson's defensive line against LSU's offensive line that I don't think is going to be very good. Clemson close, very competitive game, but I do have a lock in this game under 57.5.
Under 57.5. I do like that. I don't know. LSU seems to have some questions along the offensive line, like you mentioned. Who's playing corner for them? I don't know. A lot of questions in that fan base about some guys they brought in from other schools. I don't know. I like Cade Klubnik. I like the Clemson defense. I like them at home, especially. I probably flip the script if this game is in Louisiana, of course, if it's in Baton Rouge, but give me the Tigers of Clemson.
Right.
They wrote the Tigers.
I was wondering if you were going to catch that. Mike and Andrew with Clemson, Izzy and myself are with LSU. Any bets on East Texas A&M and Southern Methodist?
East Texas A&M used to be Texas A&M Commerce, in case you were wondering.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, Joey and I unearthed that because we were like, we've never heard of this school before.
That's where Adibi was coaching at not too long ago.
Correct. So that's what East Texas A&M is, in case you're wondering, because I had never heard of them. And I was like, that's a little weird. So, but yeah, no, I do not have SMU by a bunch.
If anyone was going to have a bet on that game, I was going to bet it was you, Mike.
Yeah, no, I do have I have one disgusting pick that I'll share with you right now because it's not ACC related. Marshall is traveling between the hedges to play Georgia this weekend, and they're obviously like a 40-point dog. I am on. I have to take a shower after this. I am on Marshall team total under 6.5.
Wow.
Jesus
Not
Christ.
proud of it, but when you see a money-making opportunity, you have to take it. So,
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Mike.
I mean, again, man, that's
What are the odds
and
on
to
that?
think and to think that you're going to be following that while having like a wholesome Saturday with your wife and child. It's a lot going on there. But
Honey, the
honestly, but I will
401k
tell
is
you.
on under 6.5 team total. Okay.
hold
This
on
is
one
important
second.
Stuff here.
Ricky asked me for the odds on that. We won't waste a ton of time on this, but since you asked,
The little
It's-
one's college fund is
it's-
on the Georgia defense.
got plus 118.
It's not even that good. Goodness
Oh.
gracious! I'll tell you on that. I'll do that.
If you're listening, make sure
Drive a
Make
hard
sure-
bargain, Andrew.
if you're listening, make sure you DM Mike McDaniel the gambling hotline number. ACC/Pac-12 after dark. Cal at Oregon State. Oregon State's a 1.5-point favorite in Corvallis. Just because Cal is replacing too much, I'll take the Beavs.
When you have a chance to take the Beavs after dark, you do it. So
Respect.
I'm going to go with the Cal rhythm here. ACC pride. You got to have it, boys. What's wrong with you?
mostly just wanted to make the Beavs after dark joke.
All right. It's 11:30. Keep it going.
Yeah, we've officially entered the NSFW portion of the show. Moving on to Sunday. This is after our game.
I'm sorry if
but
you've been listening to this with your wife and children. But
that's a
you
year.
should-
from
now
you should know.
not to.
I was gonna say you should know better. I mean, you should know better by now, right? This
If
is
you're listening to a podcast with the name Hangover in it with the family, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Notre Dame going to Miami. Irish 2.5-point faves. Mike, I know you're on the Irish on this.
I already bet it. Two different programs, man, at this stage.
Is this a
Miami
lock?
pulls this off, I would be I locked this up too. This would be a very impressive win for Miami if they pull this off. CJ Carr, first start on the road, I get it, but Notre Dame's offensive line, they're returning pretty much everybody. Their defense returning pretty much everybody. Jeremiah Love, if he's not the best running back in college football, he's one of the best 2 or 3. Yeah.
All right, that's enough glazing, Michael. Andrew.
That's Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's a principal thing for me. Notre Dame.
Yeah, clean sweep for the Irish here. I don't have a ton of confidence in Miami this year. I hope I am not wrong because always willing to root against the Canes. TCU versus Bill Belichick. Mike, you've got to be conflicted here.
The only thing I know about this game is that it's getting way, 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 way too much hype for. I mean, I get it's Belichick coaching college football, but like outlets are sending people there like they're covering the Rose Bowl. It's insane.
Of course.
The only thing I'm sure about in this game is that TCU quarterback Josh Hoover is a really good player. So a lot of questions pretty much everywhere else with Carolina especially. So give me TCU here.
Andrew.
Yeah, I'll take TCU as well. Carolina's had its own problems. The media circus around Belichick seems like he might have some interesting influences around him. I just don't buy it.
Yeah. Izzy could not avoid the homerism here. She took Belichick in the heels. So bravo to you, Michael.
Yeah.
Finally,
Somebody had to do it.
Finally, Sunday afternoon, Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Wait, Rick, did you make your pick? Did I miss it?
I'm going with TCU.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
I thought I said that, maybe not.
Sorry. I don't know. I got distracted by a Nebraska game for a second.
How's that going?
13-10 Nebraska. 2 minutes to go in the third.
Love it. Virginia Tech, neutral site game, potentially a kind of a road game here against Gamecocks. We know how big this game is. We know how important this game is. South Carolina is a 7.5-point favorite. I'll go first. I told Andrew before we started recording, I'm still not sure that South Carolina is going to be all that good this year just because of how much they're replacing. And I'm still going to pick them to win this game by 10 just because my questions about Virginia Tech are even bigger. And the uncertainty is too much for me to expect the Hokies to be able to walk into a neutral site game here against a team that's, at least as far as the preseason prognosticators are concerned, is going to be a dark horse contender for the SEC. So give me South Carolina 31, Virginia Tech 21. And I don't know that this will be a one-score game in the fourth quarter. I think this might be one where South Carolina pulls out to a 2-score lead and just kind of stays there for most of the game. Don't think Tech gets blown out, but I don't think that they're able to really have a legitimate chance to win this game in the final minutes. So give me South Carolina.
I see a similar-ish game script. I think Virginia Tech will hang here for a while. I think they'll be in it. I still, at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head, Ricky, when you said your questions about Virginia Tech exceed, at least at this stage on paper, right? Exceed the questions you have about South Carolina. That's where I'm at too. I think I was going to say 10. I'll be different and say South Carolina by 11. I'll say 28-17 just for the sake of being a little different from you. But same sort of thing. I think Virginia Tech will be in it for a while, but I could see them being down like by 7 and 9 points in the fourth quarter. And, South Carolina just kind of sits on them on defense. And
yeah,
Tech doesn't really ever have a real shot to win, but they're competitive throughout. That's kind of how I see this going. So I think we'll probably come away from this on Sunday not totally disappointed, but not totally feeling either. Not feeling like incredibly encouraged either. I think it's probably going to be a mixed bag. That's what it's been with this staff. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag until we see something different. More of the same. Yeah, mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be monolithic here, but I already submitted this to 247, so it's my official take. I got 31-20 South Carolina here. It's just it's going to come down to talent at the end of the day, and I'm not saying Virginia Tech is devoid of that, but potential weaknesses, especially along the offensive line against Stewart, that absolute stud that they have up there, who again is just coming off of what was his true freshman year, so he had an entire offseason, and that tends to create a pretty big jump from that year one to year two, just physicality wise. But yeah, between the quarterback, Virginia Tech's questions at linebacker, not really knowing who's going to guard, any of these guys, playmaker-wise for South Carolina, I am in the mood to be pleasantly surprised. I anticipate a sort of middle ground result like we're talking about, that 1.5, 2-score loss, but not 2 full touchdowns, or, maybe even 14 points. I think that's the range that I would expect there. I don't expect Virginia Tech to be entirely non-competitive, but yeah, I just hope to God they don't get absolutely blown out. My expectation is coming back here feeling pretty much the same as I do about the team right now. Still a lot of question marks given how actually good was South Carolina. What did they put on film? What does the schedule have for you ahead? It's week 1, baby.
It is week 1. I have another sweaty score that you guys might be interested in. Mike just shared this. Jacksonville State 10, Central Florida 3 in the fourth. Totally normal sport, folks. Totally normal sport.
I like the idea of bringing Scott Frost back, but it is not going to be an instant impact thing. This is going to be a long year in Orlando. I think
It's a very different landscape than when he was there the first time. So
yeah.
I would not expect things to be quite as good.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it can't work. I don't think they'll get to the heights they were at before. Obviously, they were in a different conference before. They're in the Big 12 now. It's going to be naturally harder, but they also just have a talent issue in year one. It's just going to take some time. Won't necessarily be a referendum on Frost after year one, but I don't think it's going to be pretty this year.
Yeah.
So.
All right. A few things before we get off the air here. Make sure you go to HokieHangoverPod.com. It's the new website for the show. We've got written content there. All of our episodes are available there. Every time we publish an episode, it's going to end up on the website, so you'll never miss a published episode for your viewing pleasure. If you want to continue to listen on your platforms, we're still available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, the whole 9 yards. Andrew will be on site in the stands for this game. Izzy will be on the sidelines getting pictures for us. Hopefully, we'll be back Monday night if we can swing it for this preview. Got to give Andrew and Izzy some time to get back from Atlanta. Hopefully, they'll be in great moods. Make sure you follow all the boys on X. Again, Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg, Home Field Apparel. Thank you to them for supporting the show. Any last words before we get off here, boys?
Did UAB lose tonight? Because that was another. Nope. Okay. They're getting some separation from Alabama State in the fourth quarter. Man, Trent Dilfer. That would have been a rough one.
Yeah.
Alabama State, who was their former quarterback, Demetrius Davis. How about that?
Oh, my God.
I know,
what a blast.
Tore the fan base apart.
I wonder how that Auburn degree is working out for him.
Well, it was all about academics. That's why he couldn't go to Virginia Tech and had to go to Auburn. No, but in all seriousness, folks, if you're heading down to the game, obviously, see you down there. Looking forward to what should be a good weekend. If you're kicking back at home and watching it with the fam or friends, hey, enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and look forward to talking to you guys next week, hopefully with some optimism in the air, heading into a big non-conference night game against Vanderbilt. It's SEC country.
Absolutely. We'll end it with this. Grayson Wimbish talking about Demetrius Davis being 40 years old.
Grayson, it is wild.
It is wild to think that he was recruited before NIL. That's an interesting statement. But we'll see you guys in a couple days. Until then, go Hokies.